Uh, Hello, everyone. Welcome to join today's speaker series. And today we, just like usual, and if you have questions, please ask question at the end of the talk. So today we have a great honor to have Amy Wu to present in today's seminars. And Amy is an award-winning writer for women's agriculture and agriculture technology movement. And she is a founder of From Farms to Incubators, which is a multimedia platform that uses documentary, video, and photograph and books to tell the stories of women leaders and the innovators in agriculture technology, and especially women of colors. And From Farms to Incubators and was awarded grants from the International Center for Journalists and the International Women's Media Foundations Fund. And the goal of this organization is to inspire more women to work in the food system and agriculture. And Amy has earned her master's degree in journalism from Columbia University. And prior to starting From Farms to Incubators, she spent over decades as an investigative reporter at media such as USA Today Network. And she is also very active. I see her swim a lot. And she also was named on the World's Magazine as a Groundbreakers 2020 list of 50 women changing the world. So without further delay, I will give the podium to you. Amy, go ahead. Yeah.
As food is very cultural for me. My family's from the Philippines. I'm a first-generation American. That was the way I knew how to express my love.
I came here from Vietnam as a refugee, and witnessing the cost of malnutrition, I decided I would look for a solution.
My parents are immigrants, and they were field workers when they came to the U.S.
My grandfather was a farmer boy. He had his own farm that he fed his family with.
When you have a diverse group of people, decision making is more robust and you get better outcomes, better creativity, because you have different perspectives.
I think maybe you just get used to being a minority and you stop thinking about it after a while. Everyone's an outsider in their own way, I think. Once you're able to focus on the successes and the message that you want to get out there, then the conversation becomes a lot easier.
In America, less than 1% of the population actually farms anymore. So we have a very, honestly, precarious situation where we have an aging population of farmers and not very many people who are doing it.
And it's very, very important that we make this sustainable. So we are putting technology to work to solve that problem.
The story started more than 5 years ago when Diane and I met. Both of us were very passionate about the way in which we can arm community members with a way to stay one step ahead of disease.
We've built a really simple soil test for growers and farmers to be able to look at the biology of their soil. The soil biology plays a huge role in yield and crop health, soil health and sustainability.
At least 3 times a week, we're out in the fields in Salinas. Getting in that feedback directly from our customer base, the growers, who are in desperate need of this technology. So we are making our technology fit the needs of the growers.
So our company, we do equipment tracking, timekeeping, and field scouting. It's a mobile app, so all the data collection is just through your smartphone.
Would you change anything right now as it is?
Yeah, but like the same structure is just like...
Trying to implement that software and telling them we can give them something that works that's better. They've also had other companies come in and say that, but a lot of times it's been companies from Silicon Valley. They come in from a different perspective, and so what makes us unique is knowing the ag side and knowing their processes.
Yeah.
We'll break it. But you guys will make it better.
Vitamin A deficiency disorders is just easy to solve, but it's still so prevalent. When I was little in Saigon, my mother, she would get the fruit and dye the rice with it. And the color of it is so strikingly red. I just have the hunch that the fruit was really rich. Red melon, the fruit to me that stand out. I came up with a way so that the farmers can then use whatever they have to make the oil and then keep that oil in their household.
It's important that the field be diversified and that women be at the table. Women don't get treated well unless there are enough, there's a critical mass.
My daughter is 10-year-old. She asks me, what is it that you're doing? And when I share that with her, she has this spark in her eye that, wow, I didn't know that's how you grew strawberries. Once the spark is there, they will find most innovative ways to solve things.
Oh, thank you very much, Professor Ma and Tufts University's Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy for hosting this special talk. I am really honored to be part of this speaker series. And I'm really glad that we were able to play a clip of the documentary From Farms to Incubators, which, by the way, we celebrate the 5th anniversary of this documentary. It came out at first in 2017. I've been really excited about this talk and consider myself a member of the Tufts family. Actually, Dean Dari and I first met when we shared the stage as panelists of a Worth magazine panel that focused on the future of food. It was probably a year and a half ago. And I've had the privilege of serving as an entrepreneurship advisor at the Friedman School. It's really a robust and awesome community of advisors, and I've had the joy of being interviewed by some of the talented students for the Nourish Cafe video series. I also feel like this speech is very special to me because we're doing it during Women's History Month. So today I'm going to share a little bit about my own journey, how Farms to Incubators started, and I'm going to touch upon how women are driving the present day agri-food tech boom in industry that helps farmers tackle some of the biggest challenges that they're facing. And finally, I'm going to share a little bit about the challenges and opportunities in inspiring the next generation to consider jobs and opportunities in what is a fast-growing field. So how did a woman who has no background in agriculture, that's myself, become a storyteller and advocate for women in ag tech? And how does storytelling connect with making a difference, especially when it comes to rural areas, underserved communities, and underdeveloped nations? From Farms to Incubators was born out of serendipity and passion. Today, it is an initiative that uses storytelling to elevate, connect, and inspire women in agri-food tech in tackling farming challenges. It is an award-winning documentary that you just saw a short clip of. It's a new book that profiles nearly 30 women innovators in the sector. And over the course of the past 5 years, it has been nearly 500 screenings, events, and talks that I have moderated, created, or organized in some way. But from Farms to Incubators, the heart of it starts with storytelling. For decades and decades, I was a journalist, a professional journalist, and I covered a wide range of stories. But the common thread of this has always been a passion in telling the unheard or underheard story. So in 2016, there was a bit of serendipity. I was sent to the Salinas Valley in California to write about local government and agriculture. I had never been to the Salinas Valley before and only knew of it as Steinbeck country. So agriculture, I quickly learned, is a $9 billion industry there. If I was standing in the room with you, I would ask you, those of you who have been to the Salinas Valley, to raise your hands. But I soon learned that 80% also of the leafy greens that we eat are here in the US are produced there. And everywhere I drove, literally there was a lettuce field. Being an avid consumer, I love to eat. I felt this emotional connection now with my food. and I connected with the faces and silhouettes of people who were planting, harvesting, packing, and growing. Well, technology has always been a part of farming and agriculture, but I observed the rise of what was then a small sector called ag tech, innovation that helps farmers grow more efficiently, especially under the challenges under climate change. So what is ag tech first, and how do I define it? I define it as any innovation development that helps farmers grow more efficiently. And that includes saving money, helps with giving them more yield. So what are some examples of this? If you drive past the thousands and thousands of acres in farmland in, for example, maybe the Midwest or California, it could include a self-driving tractor. If you look up in the sky, there might be drones flying above inspecting farmland. Or certain technologies like blockchain. I love using this as an example, actually, because I once thought it was just cryptocurrency. Well, blockchain's already used by a lot of large food retailers to track the food from field to the shelf. Ag tech provides solutions to farmers. And farming has never been easy. It's always been very labor intensive. And agriculture already faces tremendous pressures. So in 2050, it's forecasted that the global population will be 10 billion, and growers are faced with the pressure to feed 10 billion people by then. Well, in the Salinas Valley, as I was covering things and as I was observing the landscape, I also looked at things through the gender filter. I observed the lack of women at the table, not the kitchen table, the decision-making table. At many industry meetings and conferences, I didn't see women, and certainly women who look like me. And as I said earlier, I have always been driven to tell the underheard or untold story. What I learned was that there's a new generation of women who are creating the innovations to help growers produce more efficiently. So in 2016, serendipity again, I applied for a grant from the International Center for Journalists seeking stories about minority women business owners. And I applied for this grant. I suggested doing a short documentary that presents women in ag tech, founders in ag tech, women of color. So that launched in 2017, and I had 3 or 4 women. It was hard to find them. I can always share more about the backstory, but it was not easy to find them. I went to a lot of conferences. I went to a lot of summits and meetings with the videographer who I hired from that grant to search for women. And then in 2020, I launched the Women in Ag Tech art exhibition at the National Steinbeck Center to use photographs and art to celebrate women in the sector. And then in 2021, I mentioned that there is a new book. So what inspires me to tell these stories and to continue to collect the stories? I do so to create awareness and outreach and use art and writing and storytelling as a platform for questions, for discussion, and for discussion on important topics. What is the role of women in agriculture and ag tech, and what will be the role? And at almost every talk and screening, I received the following comments. I've made note of them. Well, I didn't know there was a new generation of women creating the innovations to help farmers. And then often I will bring a woman with me who I have interviewed as a guest. And I found that they often looked at each other and said to each other, we didn't know that she existed. We didn't know she existed. Can you connect us? We seek a community. So after the film came out, after the art show came out, I started an unofficial roadshow with the goal of getting their stories out there. And at each event, I discovered that, basically what I said earlier is that the women didn't know each other and wanted to connect. There was a real need for a community, a network, and a hub for women in ag tech. I received more and more phone calls and emails and texts saying, you need to talk to this woman. How about that woman? Not only in California, but in the Midwest, in the Northeast, where I'm based, and overseas, places like Brazil, Singapore, Israel, Australia. There were so many inspiring stories that in 2018, I said, their stories need to be documented, and first documented in the form of a book. So sometimes I'm asked, are there any common threads with the women that I've documented and I've interviewed? Well, all of their stories are very unique and diverse, but I did find some common threads. I found they all care about food production, climate change, sustainability, and they also want to have successful companies and care about making money. They are entrepreneurs, most of them. Most don't come from a background in agriculture. They didn't grow up in farming families, but they share an impact they share a passion for solving big issues that threaten or might hinder the progress in agriculture. And I want to share some examples now of some of the women innovators that I've talked to and some of the solutions or some of the problems that their innovations are addressing. I'm going to start with soil health, actually. So some farming practices, like the application of chemicals, the over application of fertilizers and tillage, can have very bad effects on the soil, including erosion, and much of this leads to the decrease in production, food production. So a lot of the farmers these days are seeking soil testing kits that are accurate and affordable. Diane Wu and Purnima Parameswaran, they're actually in the film and in the book, are two young Stanford PhDs who founded Trace Genomics. It's based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they create soil testing kits that use gene sequencing technology to measure the health of soil and detect diseases. There's a severe labor shortage that continues, and it continues to be a bigger problem as farmers age out. Average age of farmers is nearing 60, and field workers is about 60 to 70. A hot area in ag tech is robotics and automation. So I met Aubrey Donnellan, a co-founder of Bear Flag Robotics, that makes an autonomous tractor that does reduced tillage work without a driver. And right now, companies such as Bear Flag Robotics, Bear Flag Robotics is not alone. There's companies like FarmWise, Verdant Technologies, and NAIO, that's NAIO, that are all good examples of companies that are in the space of robotics and automation. And by the way, Bear Flag Robotics was acquired by John Deere, I believe, for $250 million a year ago. And also, farmers need real-time data to keep up with everything, not just the obvious of weather and transportation, but everything that affects their business. And we can all, to some extent, see that there are huge barriers now with the supply chain, supply chain bottlenecks, and also shortage of supply now. And this is critical. Farmers need critical information in order to move things forward, right? So Ag Tools is a SaaS-enabled platform that was launched by Martha Montoya. She's originally from Colombia. It offers real-time algorithm data, gathers information from over 600 commodities. It's a little bit like Bloomberg, Martha says, for farmers. And also, as an aside, Martha also trains female farmers in ag-rich regions, including the Salinas Valley, on how to use ag tools with the goal of uplifting women in farming. She donates some of the software to women farmers. There are dozens upon dozens of more stories, and I'd love to go on about them, but you can certainly read about them in the book and see them in the film. I wanted to note, though, that in the documentary and in the book, I made special care to write about the women founders and entrepreneurs as people, meaning what inspired them to be the first in their family to start their own company, to take an untraditional route, often to break through cultural barriers, some to move across the country to pursue their passion. I write about the challenges and continued challenges that they face, raising money and funding, building a team, and as I said, going through cultural barriers. And in the book, I often compare their journey to climbing Everest. And in many ways, my own journey, personal journey, is parallel to theirs. This is my first book and my first film, and actually the first time I had applied for a grant as such in the area of storytelling. I faced and continue to face many challenges when it comes to growing this initiative. And often it is in finding people and connecting people with the same passion. Well, but I continue to do so because big picture wise, as I said, I want the film and the book, the art, to serve as vehicles for engaging discussion about the role of women in ag and food systems. I want to highlight the importance of diversity in ag and food and to really help all women in America. So from farms to incubators, as I said, there was a real need for community and a hub. And I highlighted and bolded community and hub here. It takes a community to create sustainable change which includes more innovation in the food systems and ag and more women at the table, especially young women and youth, especially those from underserved regions. I mean, women already play a critical and extensive role in the food systems. Women are responsible for half of the world's food production, and in most developing countries, they produce between 60 to 80% of the food. Yet women continue to be regarded as home producers or assistants on the farm, and not as farmers and economic agents on their own merit. So after hundreds of talks in this journey, and I do compare it to climbing Everest, like a mountain, I often get the questions of what next, or what can I do to contribute? So the good news I'll share is that on this journey, I have met many others who share a similar mission and passion to create change. Okay, here are some examples. There's the Women in Ag Tech directory that is built off of Airtable. This is a searchable, embeddable directory in a joint team effort where I and a group of women leaders in ag tech pulls together our resources, our time, and also contacts in ag tech. We have been keeping our own list to combine it into a directory. And March, this month, marks a year since the directory was launched. And the vision is simple. The directory would serve as an accessible resource for those seeking to add diverse leaders in agri-food tech to their teams as maybe employees or partners. I mean, it was a great way to also connect the women with each other, to encourage friendship, collaboration, and partnerships, or to connect them to potential agribusinesses or investors. So more good news is that we have over 700 women now on this list who have submitted their own, every woman has submitted their own name through a survey. And are we making progress? I'd have to say yes, because stride by stride, because over the past 2 weeks, there's been another 25 names that were added after I wrote an article for Ag Funder about it as well. So there's also the storytelling, which is where my heart really is. And it's a mission to extend the portraits. Already there's 30 in the book, there's about 10 in the movie, but it's to create a portrait for every woman and give every woman a voice who works in agri-food tech. Hopefully the stories will inspire and motivate. And I say that for a certain reason, because the third part is mentorship, which has extended me to speaking in a lot of high schools, colleges, and universities. It includes a pilot mentorship program that's in the works. And at many of the speeches and talks, I observed that there is a light bulb moment. And the light bulb moment is that, oh, wow, science, technology, and engineering and math, STEM, can equal agriculture, and there are opportunities in there, a lot of opportunities. So it does take a community to keep the torch lit. So from Farms to Incubators as an initiative always seeks ambassadors and people with similar passion, to host a screening, host a speaker, host a reading, maybe get your local library and school library to acquire the book and the stories, and to be a fellow storyteller. I'm always looking to connect with others who want to write and document stories. For opportunity to be truly realized, I feel that ag and innovation finally needs to be baked into the K-12 learning systems. Learning needs to include STEM, innovation, entrepreneurship, finance, and investment. I mean, agriculture is much more than tractors and overalls. It is the laboratory, cutting edge innovation, investment in finance, entrepreneurship, and storytelling. Innovation is needed, whether it be aerial imaging drones that offer data on insect damage, to robots on dairy farms. Yes, I recently saw that, there are robots now increasingly milking cows and helping thus small farmers save time. Ag tech creates an opportunity for a more diverse workforce. It requires a new, if not extended, set of skills that go beyond traditional ag, and opens up job opportunities to segments of the population who traditionally have not been the leaders and key decision makers in these sectors. I feel, and I've seen it in the Salinas Valley region, that in the long run, it keeps youth and talent in the communities they grew up in, and thus gives them a chance to pay it back to those communities, like stay in the communities, buy a house, be a part of the education system, and grow their families there. Like I said, it's a personal passion of mine to work with youth as well. And most importantly is we all eat. I mean, I noted that I love to eat, and ag tech is only one sector that is part of this greater food ecosystem. I mean, in reality, all parts of the ecosystem are very, very important. And it takes a community to keep the spark and the torch lit and to create lasting change and a paradigm shift. So finally, I would say, let's keep climbing together. Thank you for this opportunity to have me speak and share a little bit more about From Farms to Incubators today.